All right. Well, welcome to everyone to this month's Dynamic Directions Investment Guru webinar. This is your host and Certified Master Coach, John Randall, joining you from North Carolina, from the metropolis of Owensboro, Kentucky. We have Drew Watson and his team. Drew is our D2 Investment Guru. Drew, welcome to the call.
John, thank you very much. It's glad to be here. I'm joined with special guest April Kemplin, our Director of Marketing. She is the Sultan of impressing people and the Director of First Impressions, a wow queen, certified master wow person, all that. So we're looking for a great call today. We've had a lot of excitement since our last investment webinar, John. I mean, the markets have greatly cooperated with that, with a really good, strong move to the upside.
Absolutely. So let's run through this, exciting 4 weeks we've had. So what are you seeing? What's the latest in the world of these markets?
Well, I think, we had a Fed meeting today, and the response coming out of that was fairly positive. We finished off the highs, but I would say, in kind of getting ready for the meeting, we've had a pretty good tailwind buoyed by what appears to be continued accommodative Fed policy. I've got our kind of global market screen up there. It looks like the Fed will probably stand pat with rates at least for a while. They've also mentioned maybe that we might have just a couple of rate moves, if that, during the year. So that's definitely a plus. Along with that commentary, what you've had is the dollar weakened slightly. We're back to $1.13 euro to U.S. dollar spread is what I'm looking at now, as well as even the Canadian situation. Canadian dollars back more in line. So we've had a little bit of dollar weakness, which has kind of helped a lot of multinationals. And earnings so far, I would say, would be a mixed bag. Out of what we run in our portfolios, John, year-to-date performers that have kind of trailed a little bit, healthcare, obviously, and then financials. We made a big bet on Citigroup last week, and that's paid off handsomely for us. But what we see is the continued accommodative interest rate policy by the Fed is driving a lot of these, investment results. If you look at the calendar, after today's meeting, it lays out pretty favorably until you get to June 23rd and you have the Brexit vote. We're underweight United Kingdom and international as a whole so far this year, but that's the day the Great Britain votes whether or not to leave the European Union. Your worst case scenario probably there is if they leave, they basically are the linchpin and everything else falls apart. Other countries want to leave. But more in line of probably what may happen is, if they vote to leave, they leave quietly. You've got them on their own pound sterling still. They're not on the euro. So it would be, an unwind, but a more orderly unwind than if one of the countries that are on the euro tried to pull out. That could be, a recipe for a lot of uncertainty. Then the calendar changes to July, and you have the Republican National Convention. If you read a lot of the data that comes through from different sources, IRG, Columbia Threadneedle, other sources as well, John, what you come up with is it appears, there could be a lot of uncertainty. If the Republican convention turns into a fiasco and you get a lot of people that are angered and they don't want to vote, does that lead to Democratic sweep not only of the White House, but also of, the House of Representatives and the Senate? That could be maybe big trouble for some of your healthcare biotech stocks. Biotech is an area that probably since last August has had 3 pretty large sell-offs. Specifically speaking, let's kind of pull up here chart, we'll put the biotech index in. I think everybody can see this, John. You know, we're sharing the screen. You know, you've had 1, 2, 3 pretty large sell-offs since last August. You know, probably 1 to 1.5 of those sell-offs was warranted. So we're, you know, informing our clients this is an area that we're watching with, you know, hopefully pretty high expectations. If the election is not as bad as we think and there's more blood in the streets on this, longer term, this might be a pretty good area to overweight in the market. On the financials, what we see with your bigger financials, it's been much discussed that Hillary has taken more money from Wall Street than any other candidate. Your big banks have suffered tremendously this year if you're running any of the models that have individual bank stocks. And if you've been in them since January 1, you know, you're down maybe 10%. As I stated, we made a pretty good move into Citigroup right about here. And I'll say more specifically, we got in right here, John, because we think probably Hillary will win, and or if she doesn't, whoever would win on the Republican side, parts of the Dodd-Frank bill might get reworked, and it might be easier for companies in the financial service sector to make some more money. Citigroup and Bank of America are the two poster children for big banks that are trading at a fraction of their book value. Historically, banks trade at a multiple of book. They're trading at a fraction. We just need to see what happens. But still, by and large, we're running very diversified portfolios. You know, Grant's got the performance numbers for the first quarter were excellent, and we're doing that primarily, almost exclusively, on the SPS Advisor platform. On the fixed income space, given the interest rate posture, fixed income has had a pretty good way to go. Specifically speaking, we're kind of running more AA average credit quality bonds on the portfolio side. We've seen that perform, you know, very well for us. You know, so we think we'd rather be kind of more positioned in the higher credit quality places. That has worked across the board. And then when we get to commodities, our unleaded gasoline trade, we put in an order today to unwind that, and it kind of tanked the market for an hour and a half or 2 hours, most of midday, trying to move out of that. But oil, and I don't know how many people here get a subscription to Bloomberg magazine. Can you hand me my backpack there, Jacqueline? You know, there was a really good couple pieces of information here, John. Let me reach into my bag of tricks. This is something you can only happen in live television. This is the Bloomberg magazine with the Saudi prince on it, and then this is the latest edition of Grant's Interest Rate Observer. This is two areas where I get quite a bit of my information. Basically, both of them make a pretty good argument for you know, pretty good tailwind in the oil and energy complex. The Bloomberg piece was surprisingly candid with regards to really what kind of trouble Saudi Arabia was in last year. Big trouble. If anybody on the call was in the CAC trip at Scotland, the Threadneedle guys that came up from London said, look, it's just obvious the Saudi wealth fund is, sovereign wealth fund is liquidating everything they can to get cash. And this print has pretty much confirmed that. So, you know, you've got probably the world's second largest oil producer needing cash and discussing that pretty openly. So I think you're going to see probably prices start creeping up. The other piece that Grant kind of talks more about isn't the Saudi side, but here in the U.S. You know, rig count was about 1,500 rigs in October of 2014, John. We're down to 350 or 351 as of a week and a half ago here in the U.S. It's apparent that the U.S. has become the swing producer on Earth. And according to the information in grants, global demand is going to be up 1.5 million to 2 million barrels a day, year over year. So that bodes pretty well, I think, for probably a push to around $50 a barrel in the near term. But then, some expectations that you'll see prices creep up even, from there. So on that commodity, that's what we see is probably in action. If people are using gold or permanent portfolio, they've had a pretty good run. Gold's within a few dollars on the GLD index of getting close to its old high here. I don't know if you can see on the chart. So basically, the commodities have come back to life. Anybody here that's operating in an agricultural area, I think it's really key if you have farmer clients or people that own farms, grain prices really jumped like a rocket ship, John, about a week and a half ago. Let me pull this up. And we look at, let's say, corn, July contract. I'm pulling this up, John. You'll see a huge spike. Well, it's unavailable. Let me pull it up on mine here. But corn and soybean prices had a huge jump about a week to 10 days ago, the likes of which, we haven't seen in a while. So corn's at $3.84 a bushel. Well, that's, what we've seen is you probably saw maybe a 5 to 10% move in a day or two of trading. So down here, watch the commodities. That kind of is a sigh of relief, because that's one area that we think will be under some pressure going forward if prices don't improve in those areas. The thing for people on the call, if they're in agricultural areas and people are dealing with farmers, have the farmers start noticing how much inventory is piling up in the equipment yards. John Deere, other sales, equipment sales, because that's a story that the equipment's been piling up now for probably 10 months. It's projected to continue to pile up, and things may not be good in that part of the market soon. But that kind of gives us a rundown. We got stocks covered, fixed income, alternatives as it comes to commodities. Real estate has performed exceptionally well, John, in this environment of low interest rates as well. So, things are kind of clicking on all cylinders.
Very nice. If you have specific questions out there, just go down the chat box. Just adjust who you're sending it to. You can send it to everyone. You can send it to Dynamic Directions, the host, which I'll get, or you can send it to Drew directly. I will answer any specific questions on markets, where we've been, where we're going, and then also in the upcoming segments of marketing. So I think perfect segue, Drew, to talk about one of D2's favorite topics, attracting more clients and better clients, and getting the word out there to prospects. So let's cover just a high level what some of the top areas we want to hit today. What do you see as some of the best things that you're doing that advisors can learn from here in the Department of Marketing?
I'd say let's keep it simple first. Let's focus on three things, John. Three things I always do. One, we want to be niche. Two, we want it to be personalized. And three, we want it to be memorable. So I think if you focus on a niche, make it personalized, and make it memorable, you're going to leave a lasting impression, and people are going to think, very, very positively of you and what you're able to do for them. And in my work with April, she came on board last October. That's what I've really tried to stress is let's find niche events. Let's make things personal for each client, and then let's make it memorable because, truthfully, if it's very personal and it's touching, people are going to remember it, and that's kind of a referable moment as well. We focus really, our top tier is kind of who this is catered toward. We can discuss kind of more mass marketing approaches we do later, time permitting, but we really kind of focus on our upper level clients. Where we start with that, John, is listening. So everybody's job in the office is to listen. It doesn't have to just be Drew Watson. I mean, it can be one of the ladies that answer the phone, one of the traders. But our daily stand-up meeting, which we got from the Ritz-Carlton event, I want everybody to share, hey, I talked to John Randall today, and he and Kathleen are really into Cab Francs now. Let's go to the high-end wine store and buy a Cab Franc for John and Kathleen and put a little note on there that you might like that. Or, Drew is really into bourbons. There's a new bourbon being released. Let's get that. So it all begins in listening, and it's everybody's job to listen. And I think, too, you need to press people. If you have those meetings, you have team members that, look like they're from a Mad Max movie with their mouth sewn shut. You need to press them for more information. Surely you've talked to somebody today, AFA, what do they have to say? So it's everybody's job to listen and report back. That daily stand-up meeting is a great time to get that feedback going. Then once we know something's going on or somebody's called in, then, if it's and we try to have things systematized, John. So if it's a birth, April will kind of go through what we do for a birth. If it's a death, what we do for a death. If it's a trip, what do we want to do for a trip? So, with that, we'll get started. The other thing is, you have holidays. We'll cover that. But April, let's say, we have a meeting or somebody calls in and they can't come by the office to sign a form because they've had a new grandbaby. Tell us about kind of what we do to swing into action there.
Okay, so the advisor would contact me and say, this client just had a new grandbaby. They talk to them. So then I do my research to find out if it's a girl or a boy. Usually I do a lot of Facebook stalking. So we'll find out if it's a girl or a boy, find out what the name is. We send out coin banks that are personalized for the new babies, and there's even one for if it's a grandparent. There's even a spoiled baby coin bank that we'll send out for the grandparents. So that's what we would do for all new babies.
Excellent. On the flip side, a new child is a blessing, and everybody's on top of the world. What about in case of a passing of a client?
If we have a passing of a client and we're notified of that, there's a couple of different things that we do. We've done personalized, like wind chimes recently. We did personalized wind chimes with the person's name and the birth and death date. We have done recently donation in kind. We had a lady pass away that was out of town, and in her hometown they're building a water fountain and they're selling bricks in honor of or in memory of someone. So we purchased a brick and sent her family a note to let them know that would be there in her memory. We also do music boxes where they can put a photo in, and then the Amazing Grace plays on the music boxes. We've had really good feedback from that as well.
Excellent. Those are great things. John, and our high-end clients kind of, one, we need to be aware of what their hobbies are. A big high-end client hobby is travel, of course, and travel to exotic locations. So a couple of things that we do here that I'm most proud of we have a travel library. Jacqueline's going to share the picture. It is a very nicely done travel library that has travel books from all over the world, the kind of most popular places our clients like to travel. You know, who all here is going to national conference? Jacqueline's going, John's going. I've got a Vegas map. I'm showing Jacqueline where Tupac got shot. That's something she really wants to know about. So I'll show her the corner where that happened. But what we have here, the travel books, we have up to the left are the National Geographic travel books. Those are all great drives in the U.S. John, how many people that you worked with have worked their whole lives and they've dreamed about going up east to kind of follow the foliage change from summer to autumn in the winter?
Yeah.
That's one of those books. The big drives out west, either the southwest or the northwest of the United States. You know, we want to take the grandkids. So this is a lending library. All of our books are branded with our logo, name, number, etc. And we let people borrow the books. They always bring them back, but the cost of borrowing the books are for them to make notes of where they went, what was their favorite place to go and see, to eat, for us to have pictures so we can put on our Facebook page. They sign a release if we want to do that, obviously. But we try to keep a journal, John, of firsthand experiences, because one, there's no recommendation as good as a firsthand recommendation, just like people getting a referral from a financial advisor. So we want to know, what part of your trip did you love? I'm going to have April reach out to them. We have a group that's in northern France and Holland now. We'll ask them kind of what they did that was probably the most fun, what was neat. So they can use the travel library. We'll send those books out to them if they're out of town. Also, we have the airline guide. Now, people like the internet, John. You know, the internet is a thing for young people. There's a certain amount of information you can only get from a book and handling a book. So we have the airline guide for all of Western Hemisphere. So every airport in the Western Hemisphere, every arriving flight, departing flight, we use it here religiously. You know, if we want to connect, how do we get to High Point? I can kind of say, do we want to fly into Raleigh? Do we want to fly into Greensboro? What airports do they come up? That is a kind of unusual book that we have. It's a subscription. That was one of the things we picked up from the Wall Street Journal. We have our college guides down there, you see, and a ton of travel books. So talk about some of the travel gifts we've given them some of these upcoming trips, April.
Okay. In addition to the travel library, we also will send a picture frame that is themed to where they are going or where they have been, so that whenever they come back, they can put their memorable photo in that picture frame. And we make sure that we brand that with our information on the back side of that. And then, you know, with the note that we send along with that, we let them know that we hope that they have a great time, and please share your photos with us when you get back.
And John, we try to go high end on that because we want this to be displayed. A lot of these trips are trips of a lifetime. So on a trip to the Netherlands, we have a picture frame that was Delft pottery. That's what they're famous for there in the Netherlands. So this isn't kind of, you know, your cheesy Owensboro Barbecue Festival frame, you know, WBKR rocks. This is like a nice pottery type frame. We have clients that are going, after there, they're going to Scandinavia. We sent something for St. Petersburg, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically we try to find out exactly where they're going. We have a client going to London. We're doing the same thing with us.
We did, for the London trip, we did a Cat Studio hand towel. I don't know if you guys have ever ordered anything from Cat Studio, but they're very personalized, high-end pillows, glasses, and hand towels. They're hand embroidered, very nice. It was well received. We did pillows for all of our top tier HBCs for Christmas this past year, and it was very well received. So we did a hand towel for London, for the people that are leaving to go next week.
And John, to channel my inner Donald Trump, the Cat Studio hand towels and pillows are, as April says, very high-end, first class. It is something that people will keep in their home. You know,
And people will ask about it too.
yes, probably our number one client, he went to London, I think, last year. We got him a London Cat Studio pillow. He keeps it at one of his homes, and he says it's a conversation piece. Hey, where did you get that? That's totally cool. They have them for most major cities in the world. They have them for specific themes, colleges. So for our top clients, we're probably going to go back to that well. Also, you know, we have a client that is purchasing a place on the Upper West Side of New York. We got them some Upper West Side coasters and kind of by the subway stop where they would be. He was on the phone with me this week. Home run. I mean, it's something they can't get, you know, where they live at their Florida home, and it's something that they really totally appreciated, along with their Cat Studio pillow that they had. So we try to get something that, there again, is memorable, because I think all these are very, very memorable, and kind of niche to what it is that they like to do. Along those lines, as we kind of joke with the Cab Franc joke, was it Cab Franc or Cab Franc, John?
Franc.
Of course. Call him the son. We have clients that are into wine. So, you know, one of the items we will do is find a nice bottle of wine, and if they're local, it's easy. There's some tricks of the trade in shipping wine or bourbon, but we've made contact with the largest liquor store in the state of Kentucky. I imagine that is in Louisville, and they have an entire engraving section that we can do that allows us to put a personalized message on the bottle. So whether that bottle is used, you know, we've sent to California some Owensboro bourbon. They kept both in their house in the Bay down in Palm Springs. We sent 2 bottles for that reason, so they could, you know, have some at their, you know, main house and some at their winter home. And it's a great conversation piece for people, you know, out in California. So let's talk holidays. We've talked Christmas, what we get for Christmas, the Cat Studio. So let's talk another holiday, and let's talk the language of love.
Okay, so for Valentine's Day this year, we sent flowers to all of our clients who are widows. And so a couple of days before Valentine's Day, they received a bouquet of flowers, and that was extremely well received. That's something that we will do again.
We will continue doing that. It was such a home run, an unbelievable home run. We had more than one widower, and keep in mind, these are top clients, so you can imagine the assets they have, had never received flowers in her life. So for all the romantic men on this call, that's one way to become a millionaire. Is to save your money. But yes, it was, you know, that is making a memory that's being very, very impactful. That is kind of an example of showing how much that you do care. Along with the holidays everybody's heard of, there are other holidays, John, that are out there. You may not be aware. Everybody on this call, hopefully they are. Today was Administrative Assistance Day, and I'm sure at D2 they got showered with all kinds of gifts. Here we have flowers for administrative assistants, and there are other professional days, though. So April, let's talk about that.
Okay, so professional days, there's a professional day for everything now. So we have researched all of the professions that we have clients and their professions. Most recently, we've sent baskets of Great Harvest bread and cookies to all of our clients who are dentists. So we delivered those to the dental offices and wished them happy Dentist Day. And they were all pleased with that.
So look on the calendar, have your marketing people look for some of these kind of odd days. I think next Wednesday is National Mani-Pedi Day. I will try to get in and get some, hand lotion for those people that take care of my feet. But in all seriousness, look at the calendar, see what special events or days are coming up. And there again, John, that's the niche marketing. Go for the dentist. We will do the same thing for National CPA or Accounting Day. Physicians. Unfortunately, there's not a national support your home office Ameriprise financial day, or we'd be sending, a basket of cookies up there too. But pick out the days you want it to focus on as a niche, send those people something, and then, you'll get a follow-up thank you, but also have a follow-up plan on how you can take that and run with it. Talk a little bit about our CPAs, because that's kind of, that's a drip marketing campaign that's niche, and then what our follow-up is going to be for that.
Okay, so our CPA gifts, back in February, we started sending them different goodies to their offices. I think there were 6 offices here locally that we are familiar with, and we would send like a variety of popcorns for 1 month from King of Pop. We would send miniature cupcakes the next month, and each month it was leading up to tax day. And then at the final one, we sent the final gift and congratulated them for making it through the tax season, and let them know that we would be in touch soon. So now what we're doing is we're following up with a phone call, and we want to take lunch to their office and have a meeting with them to discuss various things that we could do for their clients in hopes to get referrals out of it.
So the first thing we did, John, was identify which practices we wanted to focus on. April identified the drip gift, and then now we're going, to follow up with what we can do to kind of provide and add additional value for their practices. So that's a very, very, good piece of information that we do there. What are some other things, April, that you see us doing quite a bit of?
We do personalized emails almost daily for people that have a certain stock. We'll send out articles and let them know, what their stock is doing in the market currently. And then we also do credit reports. Maybe you can explain that a little bit further.
Yeah, a good thing we've done, because this gets a lot of information for higher end clients, John. People on the call may have a lot of clients that work at one location, one business. Whether they be a publicly traded company, maybe it's a non-for-profit like a big hospital. But as we've said many times on this exact format, much more information can be gleaned from a credit report than it can from basically just kind of following the stock. So, here in Owensboro, the biggest employer in town is the hospital. They have, about $600 million out in bond. Once a year, they have to issue, a credit report. It's a public document, comes out from Fitch. That's a good document to have available, not only for people that are employed there, so they can kind of get a real third-party look at the viability or lack thereof of the entity, but also good general information that they may want to know regarding their business. Our bond desk can get almost any information that you need if you have a big employer. We had a private company here do a debt deal. They were owned by private equity. The CEO just knew they were doing it, answered all the questions, really didn't know how it went off. Our back office got the bond pricing and basically could see the thing was selling at about a 10% premium, a week out after, at a 1% interest rate. So the credit, never underestimate the information. There again, that's niche, that's personalized, that's memorable, because when they want information, they're going to want to come back to you. And most people know, well, that information isn't free. I need to be a client of Drew's to be able to get that information and kind of walk through it. So that's kind of something new that we're doing. It's been very, very well received thus far because, people do have interest in these types of situations, and we use it kind of as a marketing tool. It's a conversation starter. it also is a way to kind of open doors to potential clients as well and get referrals from your top clients that might be working at that same location.
So Drew, I think, everyone knows there's riches and niches, but this is right on about how to get in and establish these niches. It's through your existing clients. It's finding ways to get referrals in those clients. So I really like these examples of someone working at a specific place. It's very easy to find others just like them through some of these techniques. Bring to life. I think that's very, very easy. One employer doing there. You mentioned earlier like dentists. And dentists are more independent and have their own offices. So how a niche like that where you've got individual people, how are you using some of these touches to reel in some other dentists or other people that have kind of separate offices from each other?
Well, you need to make a big splash on delivery. So April's very talented. She conducts herself very, very well. She's not afraid to kind of go knock on the door, bring in the big flower arrangement, bring in the big gift, chit-chat with the professional if they're available, if not the lead gatekeeper, because that's who the introduction is going to come from eventually, John.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, so one, it's the wow factor. I mean, it's the pizzazz factor that you get when you walk in. What I'm working towards is, I don't know if anybody's ever, when I made the Hall of Fame this year in Ameriprise, one of my options was a gift from Tiffany, so I treated myself to a nice, I've always wanted a kind of a nice dress watch, and work with the guy over the phone, and then it came here. I mean, I was out on an appointment, but the girls that came, and they got the FedEx packing off, and there it was sitting there, just a big blue box. And as Nito talks about, that itself just creates a little heart aflutter. Wow, there's something good inside. So as part of what we do, we will work on is we're going to have the, Watson Cheney box or the Watson Cheney wrap or whatever it is that we do. Everything moving forward will have that. We have our own ribbon that is logoed. We have our own wrapping paper that is kind of a mix. 1001 Dalmatians meets the Red Cross.
Polka dotted.
It's red polka dot with the Ameriprise paper on there. So it looks great, but basically, so we want to start there with the wow, with our touch, so they know that it came from us, from our office, and then it has to be something that's kind of very, very memorable. We always try to go first class with everything that we do, whether it be food, whether it be the wine, the bourbon.
And if they're local, we hand deliver everything so that we can have that opportunity to have that communication and meet new people.
So that's how it's done. And then, going back to your question, let's say individual dentist, individual doctor, what really turns their crank if they're kind of on their own? Well, one, if you can do stuff for their staff, that's probably better at a dental office than a doctor's office, because doctors have drug reps kind of calling them all the time. So if you can kind of do something to be inclusive of their staff, that always works very, very well, we've found. I think you have to know what it is that they're interested in. If you have a dentist that's into, old cars, maybe you invest $80 in a subscription to, Hot Rod Magazine or something that would be kind of out of the ordinary that would allow them to do that. I've got a bourbon subscription. We have a client that brought in almost $4 million. That's what we got him, is the bourbon magazine. He liked that. So I think you have to kind of use that relationship with a gatekeeper to say, like if we were calling your practice, John, what type of kit does he use on the drums? Maybe, I don't know if you're Tama, or the cymbals, get you a T-shirt, get you, something that's very niche and focused on what it is that you do. really, a funny story, the only thing that's really backfired that we've done was Louisville Cardinal shirts. We're in Owensboro, we're in Kentucky, but most people are UK fans. We had kind of a, confederation of about 4 or 5 engineers and CPAs that were Louisville fans, and I happened to be online one day, and at some closeout store, we could get Louisville t-shirts for about $11 a piece. I thought they were neat because it was an old-timey logo that Adidas was kind of putting back out. We sent them all out for Christmas. We didn't hear a word. I mean, it was like they went into a black hole, and maybe their mailmen were really big. Actually, she hadn't delivered them. We had some problems with dogs. But basically, that's really been, since you've been on the job, that's been the only thing the only negative that felt, that we didn't see any results at all. I mean, it was just the lack of response or even an acknowledgement of a gift was shocking. So, other than that, most everything else has worked, very, very well. We've got doctors' offices that we have when they bring a new physician on. We've sent stuff. Dr. Brower. We have a new optometrist coming on board with the optometry practice in town. We're going to send him something. So there again, keeping everybody's mind open to who it is they meet, potential clients, is what we did. We had a couple were prospected. They're both physicians. They're expecting a child. We've gotten them something. We need to probably send them something else because I don't know how far along she is, but the anticipatory "it's almost here" gift. So those are the types of things that we will continue to do as far as niche marketing. Maybe like give them movie passes, one last date night. Yeah.
So, Drew, what's some examples of the responses? You said almost every reach out you've done has had a response. What typically happens? Is it people contacting you directly? What's kind of the steps to them responding and becoming a client?
Well, typically what we get first is a very nice handwritten thank you note or email on our stationery that we gave them when they became clients or their top clients, thanking the whole team. It's very rarely that I get something that's just to me. What do you think? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a whole team thank you. And it is a follow-up, of just say, hey, I'm glad you liked it. Where do we go from here? We'd like for you to come in and sit down with us and kind of, we do what we do. I mean, it's that simple. I think because once you get them a gift that kind of touches them, John, I think it's like the Bourbon Magazine guy. They came in and we went over our stuff and he was like, okay, where do I sign? I mean, it was that easy to work with them. So, and one of the things that I would say that we do a lot of too, because we want people to be able to kind of to brag about us, is it's not uncommon after the death of a spouse, if the surviving spouse wants to downsize. So we do probably once or twice a year, kind of a home warming gift. We've tried to. We've got some of those still left upstairs, don't we? For those that live in Kentucky, they're like the state of Kentucky shaped, artisan made, handmade, either state cutting boards or state wood things that would hang.
We have the natural stone chalkboards right now.
Yeah, natural stone chalkboards. Sorry, that they can, say home y'all or go UK, U of L down, that type of thing. That's another gift that's been pretty well received, and that allows us access to their new home. If their neighbors are outside, that's an introduction. It's that type of thing that we really try to go after. And that Joe Bell, we need to send him like a British car magazine thing. That was the lead, yeah. So I think, too, even talking to your leads, because something just popped in my mind. We had a real big presentation last week. A guy retired from TBA would have a big, large amount of assets. He's really into kind of period British roadster, Morris Garage, Austin Healey, Triumph, those type, old Jag, those types of cars. So we'll find a magazine. And that's the other thing, for pretty much any hobby, really, no matter how depraved it is, there's probably a magazine devoted to that. So we definitely, we focus on that stuff.
Very nice. So as we have questions as we go, remember you can chat in you can write a question out in the chat box in the bottom there. Just make sure it's directed to everyone or me or to Drew, just so we see it there. So, Drew, these are some really great, I think, different things, different way of thinking. Would you say when it comes to your investment in marketing, what would you say is the balance of your investment when it comes to unique special gifts and reach outs like this compared to the events that you put on? What would you say you're spending more on these days?
Well, I can tell you, I just met with our accountants this morning. Travis and I did. We are spending it's on here, John, bear with me. About 28, last year, this time, we spent about $2,375 for the quarter. This year, we spent more, $2,800. So basically, we're spending about $12,000 a year on these gifts, which, out of, what that was basically for the quarter, like, not even 1% of our budget, okay, overall. And what would you say, 80% of it's on the niche gifts? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost, it's not all, but it's mostly all. So, that's probably, so we're probably spending, Christmas we spend a lot more. So I'd say we're probably spending $15,000 to $20,000. There again, we're spending probably less than 1% of our GDC on this. Excluding April's salary. I think, we've run the numbers. I think you could be all in marketing in a global sense, seminars and everything, at $100,000 a year. And I think you could probably see, threefold return on that money. I don't think that would be far-fetched if you're going after the right people and doing it effectively.
We've got a question.
Yes.
They want to know if more gifts are being sent to clients hoping for referrals or directly to prospects.
Who's it from?
It's from Eddie.
Eddie, I don't know where you're from, but thank you for the question. Typically, it's probably a little bit more.
Pittsburgh, Eddie said.
Eddie from Pittsburgh.
Eddie from Pittsburgh.
Great. The Steel City. So basically, April, what would you say? Probably a little bit more for clients.
I would say 75% for clients and then maybe 25% for prospects, because a lot of our, the CPA gifts, that's, a prospect. The professional days, a lot of those are prospects. Different things we send gifts out to prospects as well. If we find out that someone, just like he said, is interested in the cars, then we'll send that out tomorrow. So probably about 25% is for prospects and 75% for clients.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a pretty good number. Other questions? Great.
So I think results-wise, it's always good to hear from some of the best. I think Drew's one of the top in Dynamic Directions for attracting new clients, better clients. So, Drew, let's talk in terms of results. What would you say, client or asset-wise, you've attracted as practice? Maybe last year, if that's easy, or maybe year to date. What's some of the results from this marketing outreach that you're doing?
Well, we know we have the one year to date with almost $4 million. So, that's basically, I would say you're probably looking at driving at least $10 million a year in asset acquisition.
Nice.
Off that. because people, and I think too, don't underestimate it, send stuff to work. If they're working, send it to work because that'll create a buzz. Who'd you get that from? Wow, where'd that come from? So, that's what we want to do. The other thing I've thought of just sitting here is, we talk about all these crazy days. We need to make up our own days. We need to make up Southern Star Appreciation Day, Boardwalk Appreciation Day, Ameriprise Financial Appreciation Days. So don't be limited by something that is, create your own future. So basically, that's something we'll do. We'll report back how well did that go over. Because I think if you want to really create a buzz, that's what the opportunities are
One thing
to do that.
to go along with that, I don't know if you guys have food trucks in your towns or not, but we recently just had 2 food trucks open up. So one thing that we're gonna do here in the next, now that the weather's warm, in the next month or so, is we are going to lease one of those food trucks for the day, and we will go to the companies like he's talking about, the boardwalks, and just walk in at 11:30 and say, lunch is on us, come out and order whatever you want. And then we're just gonna pay for it at the end of the day and go on. So from that, hopefully, there'll be some familiar faces, but then people that will say, who are these guys and what do they do, and kind of create a buzz there.
Exactly. Great idea. And that's all April. That's a great idea.
Very nice. So
we're going to have our own cluster truck.
Yeah.
So what would you say, what's some easy first steps for advisors to get going in this direction with these really specialized, niche, personalized gifts? What's some first steps you'd recommend advisors take to get this going?
Listen, identify who's coming in tomorrow. Everybody should have appointments on the books for tomorrow. If you don't, you better have a good excuse. So look who's coming in tomorrow, do your stand-up meeting before the day starts, and tell people, I want everyone, who did you talk to yesterday, who did you talk to last night, who's coming in today. Listen, if they're going anywhere on vacation, if they talk about hobbies, grandkids, etc. Get a couple of really good examples of what you hear. Get online. We'll make it easy for you. Go to the Cat Studio. If someone says, hey, they're going to Napa, get a Napa Valley Cat Studio dish towel. It'd be about $20. Invest that money, get it, send a nice note, brand it with your own wrapping paper, and then hand deliver it when you can to let people know how much you care. Because I'll tell you, John, like with our investment model on the discretionary side, a ton of activity. And so we've kind of revamped that conversation with clients. And I had a lady today, she's been a client, 20 years maybe. She's one of Travis's first clients, and I've been working with her. It really warmed my heart because you know what she said, John? This reminds me of the good old days. So that is a great conversation starter. And so that definitely, if you're coupling this with a real active strategy on the investment side, you're going to have plenty of things to talk about, plenty of things to send them. So that's where I'd start with. Listen, find out if they're going anywhere, and give them a Cat Studio pillow or dish rag.
Yeah, if you don't have a marketing person in-house, my suggestion would be go ahead and make everything mainstream. So if you have think of the different things you want to buy gifts for, and just have a go-to gift for each item, and that way you don't have to spend half your day looking for it.
For example, if anybody wants to take part in National Appreciate Your Financial Coach Day, Cheney's a huge fan of the San Diego Chargers. John Randall is a big drummer. He could probably take some, Tommy Lee videos, or and he's a Redskins fan as well. We have one question, Jacqueline said.
Michael just asked about annual marketing calendar being pre-scheduled, client appreciation, educational sessions, private dinners, etc.
Yeah, she has a calendar for the year.
I do. I have a calendar that has all of our events on it for the year, and I send those out to wholesalers so that they can pick and choose the dates that they're available, so we can go ahead and secure the sponsors for those. The majority of ours are not educational. We have about 6 educational events a year and about 12 non-educational events a year that would either be client appreciation type events or strictly for prospects.
And then Eddie, who I now know as Ed Poach, would like to know, what about prospects? How do they know what Drew and the team does differently from other advisors?
Well, I think that's all positioning of the introducer. Eddie, for years too, I think the easiest thing to start with is what it is we don't do. I think that's easier to say, if you're used to sitting down once a year with your advisor and just holding some mutual funds, that's not us. If you're used to calling your advisor and asking them for some financial advice and the advisor says, well, that's a tax question, I don't know, that's not us. What we do is basically become a partner in your life financially and become the first place that you stop and go to when it comes to your big life financial decisions. I got an email last night, one of my top clients, buying beach property, buying a home in New York. I was on the top of the list with a CPA, realtor, mortgage banker, and I said, do you mind if I bring your attorney in on this? I took it offline, home run. So basically, I'll report back to him today, here's the findings, we're on this. So I think, you can use some real world examples, but I think a lot of times, John, it's easier to explain what we're not than what we are, and that resonates with people, kind of that almost, if it was a photograph, the negative. I think a lot of people will say, it's kind of whole art form to look at the negative of the photograph, because a lot of times in the negative, you see things more clearly, see things that you don't see in the full color glossy. I think the old Southwestern Indians thought, that was your soul. So I think give them the negative, not a bad impression, but the opposite. This is what we don't do, and in their mind, I think they'll have a clearer approach to what it is that we do. Any other questions?
He also asked about tracking everything.
We've got tracking mechanisms in place, don't we?
Yes.
Contact?
Yeah, contact manager, we put everything in there. I also keep, if I don't know contact information for a prospect, then each advisor has their own spreadsheet that I'll put information on there, so at least we know that we're looking at people. And then we review those. I do weekly meetings with each advisor, and we review the prospects in their meetings to see if maybe a client mentioned one of their names and we now have an email address or something like that, and we update it. So that's how we track that. And if we send anything out, we just kind of just document the date, what we sent, things like that.
And we're big gift card senders. I prefer like a nicer, something more specialized. I'm looking, at a Tiffany ad, John, of something for Mother's Day, and I feel like just a big pile of, because I got my mom a gift card, and I could have got her a necklace from Tiffany's. Which says more? That's what I wonder. So kind of the last ditch, fire break is gift cards, but we do track everything that we do.
Wow, a lot of great stuff today. I think this is a great webinar to go back and watch again. Make sure your whole team is able to watch this, because you're right, Drew. It's about everyone on the team having their radar on, their antenna up, listening for things that clients may have going on, a trip they have, a life event, they had a grandbaby, something's going on in their family. These are huge to listen to, and everyone on the team who comes across any interactions with clients or is checking out things on Facebook or reading the local paper, we can find out a lot about people. So awesome job. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, April. This is great stuff. If you have further questions as we go, email us. We'd love to handle them. And for a lot of you that are heading out to the Ameriprise National Conference this weekend. We look forward to seeing you out there. We got lots of fun D2 events planned. Saturday night, some lunches, and big show on Tuesday night. And, of course, all the Ameriprise fun. We look forward to seeing you. We look forward to meeting your referrals. And stay bullish, and we'll talk to you all in the next couple of weeks. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.